over. He flicked through her papers, running his finger under his collar as if trying to loosen it. "Very well, then," he announced, and with a snap of the head, he turned on his heels and left the compartment, followed by the two men in uniform. Katerina squeezed Rolf's knee gently and smiled briefly, and they both made a concerted effort not to look too relieved. A minute later, though, they heard shouting in the corridor outside their compartment and movement further down the carriage. The small Gestapo officer appeared in the doorway of their compartment, looking agitated. "You," he was pointing at her, "come with me." Rolf opened his mouth to say something and felt her hand grip his knee tightly, her nails digging through the material of his trousers. "Come on, quick, leave your bag, hurry up." Rolf stood up. "No, you stay there, only her." The two Swiss ladies did their best to avoid looking at Rolf, while the German businessman smiled awkwardly. Rolf shifted over to the window seat. He could just see 3 or 4 German police officers running across the tracks towards the train. There was the noise of slamming carriage doors and shouting further down the train. Rolf tried to order his thoughts. Evidently she'd been arrested, and it was surely only a matter of time before they came for him. The train was still in Switzerland, though only just. As far as he could tell, all the activity was taking part in the front of the train, the part closest to Germany. If he slipped out of the carriage now and moved towards the rear, he may be able to escape. It would mean abandoning his companion. But what was he meant to do? Wait to be arrested with her? He peered out of the window, but couldn't see anything. There was still a commotion further down the train, and he decided to leave the compartment, at least to see what was going on. The other passengers would expect him at the very least to wonder what had happened to his wife. He looked down the corridor, and at the end of the carriage saw a German policeman who pointed at him. "Get back in your compartment." "But my wife, I said get back in." Rolf turned towards the other end of the carriage. A Swiss border policeman was standing there, blocking any exit and nodding towards Rolf, as if to say he should do as he was told. Rolf stumbled back into the compartment, frantic with worry. He felt a wave of fear come over him, and there it remained. 2 hours out of Zurich. What kind of mission is that? A failure, an utter disaster. He caught the German businessman looking at him. "I don't understand what's going on. This must be a misunderstanding." He did his best to allow what he hoped sounded like an irritated laugh past his lips. The businessman shrugged and suddenly became very interested in a magazine he was holding. There was more noise coming from down the carriageway, approaching his compartment. They were coming for him. He shouldn't have remained in the compartment. Surely the Swiss border policeman couldn't have physically prevented him from leaving the train? Katerina swept into the compartment, a German policeman behind her repeating, "Thank you, thank you." She smiled sweetly at Rolf and the others in the compartment and sat down next to the man who was meant to be her husband, kissing him softly on the cheek. As she did so, the train coughed into life and lurched forward. Rolf looked at her quizzically. "Are you all right?" "Yes, thank you, dear." An old man had collapsed in a carriage towards the front of the train. They remembered I was a nurse, so asked me to help before the ambulance arrived. I made him comfortable. She smiled again and patted Rolf on the thigh, and he placed his hand on hers, keeping it there until they reached Munich. At Munich station, they had just enough time to buy some food before finding the right platform for their connection to Linz, where they arrived shortly after 6 that evening. They found a hotel near the river that looked as if it had been plucked from a glade in the Black Forest. After dinner, they returned to their room and sat by the window. They turned off the lights but opened the curtains. There was enough light from the moon for them to look out over the river, the city, and the countryside beyond that. They sat there for a while, the previously unspoken tension now evident. In turn, they shot glances at the double bed, the only one in the room. They were avoiding looking at each other. "I'll sleep on the chair," said Rolf eventually. "You have the bed." She frowned. "It'll be too uncomfortable. You won't get any sleep. You sleep on top of the bed. I'll get you a couple of blankets." "Are you sure? I'll keep these clothes on, obviously." She nodded. The only sound, the distant rush of water. "It's a clear night," said Rolf. "Possibly too clear."